Today I'm showing you how to make one of my favorite pastries, a brioche, just like this. We start with cold ingredients. Cold milk goes into our mixing bowl, and it will be followed by cold eggs. It's one of the pluses of this recipe is you don't have to warm anything up. It's going to mix for quite a while, so we need cold ingredients to begin with. So our milk is in, our eggs are in. Now we're going to add some sugar because brioche has a nice sweetness to it. And because we're adding quite a bit of sugar, we're also going to need a good amount of yeast. The sweeter a dough is, the longer it might take to rise because the yeast can be kind of slowed down by that much sugar. So we need a bit of yeast. Now we're adding our flour, and then we're going to add our salt. And then it's going to go into the mixer. The mixer is going to do most of the work in this recipe. So we put it in, and we're going to start on a low setting for about 4 minutes. But don't worry, you're not going to be staring at the machine for those 4 minutes. We've got work to do. Brioche is brioche because of the amount of butter in it. So we're going to take our butter, which you can see is quite a lot, and we're going to pound it. Again, this is cold butter, and in order to make it mix in better, you need it to be pliable. So the 4 minutes are going to be me pounding butter and folding it and pounding it over on itself until it's pliable but still cold. And after I've pounded it out, I'm going to cut it into about 8 pieces because that's what we're going to add to our dough. Now our dough's been mixing these 4 minutes on the lowest setting, so now we're going to increase it to medium while we add our pliable butter. And now we're going to add the butter 1 bit at a time, and we're not going to add more until that bit has mixed in. If your butter starts at any point sticking to the sides of the bowl, just stop, scrape it down, get it into the dough, and turn it back on. And do this over and over again until all the butter's incorporated. Then knead for another 10 to 15 minutes. We want a very smooth, elastic, supple dough that you can practically see through if you stretch it out thin. And I'm going to show you here. And stretch it out until you can see right through it without it tearing. That is well developed and ready to move on. Now we need to stop or slow down the fermentation here. We don't want the dough to be too warm, so the dough temperature is about 77 degrees. Any warmer and the butter is going to start melting, which we don't want. So we're going to flatten it out, and then we're going to cover it in plastic and put it in the freezer, not the fridge, the freezer, because that will help cool everything down very quickly. And at this point, you can leave it in the freezer until you're ready to work with it, which can be, in a few days or a couple weeks. After that, you're going to take it out to the fridge to warm up, and then you're going to leave it there for about 8 hours until you're ready to work with it, and then bring it out to room temperature for about half hour, 45 minutes. In the meantime, you can start buttering your cups. They need to be well buttered. If you don't have these cups, you can order some disposable ones like these off Amazon. And here's my dough that's been resting at room temperature for a little while to make it easier to work with. And now we're going to start dividing our dough. Now I'm going to divide these into about 95 gram pieces. And this recipe makes about 20 brioche. And if that's too much for you at one time, you can always just make a half recipe. Just make everything half. Once we divide our dough, we're going to start shaping, and that's really where the brioche is different than an ordinary roll. We start by shaping it into a normal ball, like I would if I was making a dinner roll. So a nice, tight, smooth ball. And we're going to do that to all our pieces of dough. And then we're going to start the real shaping process. Once we have a ball of dough, we are going to look at it as if you could divide it in thirds. Now take the flat part of the outside of your hand, 1/3 of the way in, and start sawing back and forth. Now we're not tearing the dough, we're just stretching it out so that we have basically a larger ball connected to a smaller ball by a piece of dough. And we're going to repeat this with all our pieces. Again, 1/3 of the way in, and so you end up with a larger ball connected to a smaller ball. And we're going to go through and do that to all our pieces of dough. Then, after they've all been shaped, we're going to elongate that middle section so it's a bit thinner. And so now you have the two balls connected by a thinner piece of dough between them. And this is very important for the shaping of the dough. Once you've done that, you're going to poke a hole into the big piece of dough and pull the smaller ball through that hole. So it's going to go underneath and up through the top. And that's our brioche. So we'll take another one I'll show you here. Push down on the big ball to create a hole, and then pull the smaller ball underneath and up through the hole that you just created. And this will make a nice pull once we've baked the brioche. If you were just to put a ball with another ball on top, it would pop right off. Now we're going to cover these and we're going to let them rise till they're about twice as big. In this case, I only let mine go to 75% because my kitchen was a little warm. And so now I'm covering them with egg wash, which is just some egg, pinch of salt, a little bit of water. And once they're covered with the egg wash, I'm going to add some pearl sugar, which is so good. It adds a nice crunch to the brioche, which is a very soft roll, and so now you'll have a contrast of a very soft roll with a sweet crunchy topping. They're going to go into a preheat oven. The oven is at 415, but I'm going to immediately lower it to 365 once the brioche are in. They'll bake for about 18 minutes, and I'll turn them halfway through, and I like to pull them out when they're still a little golden and not all the way browned, so that they're still extra soft in the middle. And here's the pull. Beautiful. Enjoy.